Hello, everyone. We are here in another weekly live. I'm running this live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time. And today we're going to be talking about 7 proven productivity hacks to accelerate your Java learning journey. Okay, so we're going to be talking about those 7 points here. And let's start talking about planning and goal setting. And before we start, it's important to give you some context on why it's important to and what you're gonna do. Because if you don't know what you want to achieve, it's very likely that you're gonna procrastinate. And it's very easy to procrastinate nowadays since we have so many things happening. We have a huge distraction. We have a lot of power in our hands, but at the same time, it's very easy to be distracted. Like we are receiving notifications all the time in our phones. We are being bombarded with ads. There's so much happening. It wasn't like that 30 years ago. It was very different, right? But nowadays with internet, we have so much power, and even more now with AI. It's ridiculous the power we have. Like we have access to so much information so fast. So that's why planning and knowing what we want to achieve is crucial. And we don't have to have an ultimate plan. We just have to know our next step. So let's talk about this first step here, which is like the base of any goal is to define your SMART goals. So I discussed that in a previous live, but I know that many of you weren't here, so we can discuss that again. So it's important that our goal is specific, clear, and focused. So for example, learn Java. This is too vague, doesn't mean much. But if we have something like that, master Spring Boot fundamentals to build a REST API in 3 weeks, that's doable. That's possible to achieve. So that's a lot more specific, and it's possible to know if you did it or not. So one important rule to remember when you are setting goals is to know if you can say, hey, it's done or not. If you can say for sure that it's done, then it's a good goal. If your goal is too vague, like learning Java is huge, right? Like how many features Java have? It's so many. So a better goal would be like, I want to learn. Obviously, like you have to refine better, but like a reasonable goal could be, I will master collections like in 1 month. And then you can break it down into the most important collections from Java, hash map or hash set, because it's going to take some time only to master one feature in Java. And obviously it depends on your schedule. If you have a lot of time available, then it's easier to master those topics. And your goals, they have to be measurable as well. So how can you measure it? It has to be possible to track your progress. So for example, if you want to get better with algorithms, you could set a goal that you're going to complete 5 LeetCode Java problems every week. That's achievable. And that's useful as well to pass in interviews. And yeah, I don't like this goal very much because it's saying only to finish courses, and actually to build a skill to get better in something, you need to do something. It's not only watch courses. So every course you do, it's important that you develop a project and you practice your skills. And in tools here, a good way to track your progress is to have your code on GitHub. Then you can see all the code you've been working on throughout the time, or you can even use Notion or spreadsheets to write every feature you learned or every tool you learned. That's a good way to track down your progress as well. In my case, I use notes from the MacBook, but it's okay. You can use Notion as well. It does the same. And your goals have to be achievable. So avoid overload, such as I want to learn Java, Spring, microservices in 1 month. That is not realistic, right? So you have to do so much to master all of those concepts. So it's not worth it. And also, like a good way to have an achievable and a realistic goal is to say, hey, I'm going to complete the Java Core OOP collections feature in 2 weeks. Then Spring Basics. Obviously, like Spring Basics would be in the next 2 weeks. It's usually very difficult to master the collections and Spring in 2 weeks. So Basically, your goals have to be realistic according to your schedule on how much time you can apply to achieve your goals. And for example, you have 10 hours a week. If you have that, then adjust your calendar in a way that makes sense for you. Like, it's important that you focus on the tasks that will take you to your career goals. I know this sounds obvious, but I also know that many developers don't do that. Many Java developers, even though they have a goal, they are studying something that is totally not related to their goals. And then it takes a long time for them to reach their goals. So it's also better that you break your goals into subtasks. So for example, instead of saying, oh, I'm learning Java in 1 month, which is impossible, say, hey, I'm going to learn Lambda in 2 weeks. I'm going to learn another feature of Java, exception, maybe in 2 weeks. So that you have something that's not vague, something more specific that you can really achieve. And relevant. So make your goals relevant. So it's connected to what I said now. So make your goals connected to your career goals, right? So make your goals relevant for your career. So for example, to move from front end to the back end. So create your goals more connected to Spring and create your portfolio as well. Create your Spring microservice on GitHub. Make sure you use the best programming practices. Make sure you create the unit tests. Make sure you create high quality code so that you can show this project to the company and they will admire your work and you're going to have a lot more chances to pass an interview. For example, in David's case, since he wants to move to the backend, it makes sense for him to study only the backend, right? And obviously it depends on your context, depends on what you want in your career. There are Java developers who simply want to move to other companies and work with modern technologies because they are tired of working with legacy code. So in that case, study microservices, study the most important books on the topic, practice, create your own microservices, deploy it on AWS, and create your own portfolio. And it has to be time bound. So for example, complete Java 8 features, streams, lambdas by May 30. So basically give you some time to accomplish these goals. Could be 1 month, 2 months. It depends on your schedule. If you can only invest 1 hour a day, it's okay as long as you have the right strategy. What you can't do is to waste your time studying something that won't take you to your next career steps. And regarding tools, you can use Google Calendar as well, or even countdown apps like Time Until. So the base is to be more productive and to reduce procrastination is to set smart goals. Obviously, first, you need to set the macro goals. And those macro goals, they are basically the big five. And I do that every year. So every year, I plan what are the big five goals that are important. So those goals, they are not goals that will be achieved overnight. It takes consistent action to achieve them. So make sure you think about what is the most important for you in your personal, professional, and financial area. So, for example, to plan your personal area, think about what would be great for you. So, would you like to move to another country? Would you like to purchase a nice house? Would you like to travel to a specific country? Would you like to build a family? I don't know. There are many things like that developers want. So think about it and also think about your professional side. What do you want? Do you want to work with modern technologies? Do you want to work in a nice culture? Are you fed up with a micromanaging boss and you want to leave your company right now? Are you afraid of doing interviews and failing? Or you are fed up with algorithms because nowadays most of the interviews are like that, right? They are giving you coding challenge. And I know it sucks, but even still, it makes us better developers when we learn more about algorithms because we become better problem solvers. And for example, like if you want to become a backend engineer, or if you just want to become a better backend software engineer, or if you simply want to move from monolith to microservices, you can create a Java learning path. It could be something around Java Core, Spring, microservices. Then you can deploy a microservice. You can study about observability. You can study about microservices, design patterns. So there are many things that will help you to become a better software engineer. And to create those roadmaps, you can use, for example, roadmap.sh, Trello, or Notion. Okay, so this is the basis of your planning, right? First thing you need to know where you're heading towards. Otherwise, like all of those tools, they won't help you much. So I would encourage you to take some time to write at least your big five. What are the big five goals you want for this year? You can take like Google Docs now and write it down. What are those big five goals you want to achieve this year? And it has to be five because more than five, to achieve only five goals, big five goals, is very difficult. Imagine 10. It's impossible. So choose those five goals that are the most important for you, and let's start from there. And so once you know where you want to go, then you can use the tools. So Kanban boards, I'm pretty sure that all of you here are using Kanban for our Scrum meetings. So I personally like Trello. You probably know Trello, so it's very simple. Basically, you can create the lanes like to do, doing, blockers, and done. And we also have Asana. So it's pretty interesting, this tool, and you have some days to try it out. So basically, you can write your goals here, and you can. I never used this tool, but I was exploring here, and it seems very interesting. So, but I will tell you which tool I use anyway. Okay, there is Kanban Flow. Kanban Flow is very nice. It's a free tool, and I can show you here my account. So it's interesting because you can customize your flow, and you can write down your tasks. So, for example, like in my case here, I write one Pomodoro. So this orange color represents one Pomodoro. The green one is two Pomodoro, and so on. So it's nice because Kanban Flow, you can basically customize your board, and you can do it in the way you prefer. And you can even use Pomodoro inside here. So you can start Pomodoro from here, which is very interesting as well. So it's a good tool and it's free. So, but nowadays I'm using Sunsama. So I'm using Sunsama. It's this one. It's a paid tool. It's something around $100 a year. It's nice because you can, organize your tasks by categories, and you can put the time here as well. So for example, let's task. Then I personally like to work with Pomodoros. So every task I create, it's usually 25 minutes. And my day-to-day work, I organize my day-to-day work in 10 Pomodoros. More than that, it's very difficult to keep up in the long term. So it's ideally, if we can do 10 Pomodoros a day, that's great. And obviously, if you have a 9-to-5 job, you can't achieve 10 Pomodoros out of your 9-to-5 job. So you have to basically try to divide these 10 Pomodoros with your working time. 10 Pomodoros is a lot, but I would encourage you to create the habit of trying to use 10 Pomodoros in your current job. Why? Because that will help you to be more disciplined. And discipline is not something we are born with. Because, for example, when I was a kid, I was very lazy and I wanted to play games all the time. But discipline is different, right? Discipline is it's like doing something when you don't feel like. So I know it's difficult, but the more you do that, the more you make the effort of doing something you decided to do, more disciplined you become. And you can even repeat tasks. So you can say here, hey, I'm going to repeat tasks every Thursday, or, there are many options here. And I like this tool because it also has integration with other tools like Trello, Google Calendar. I can put items on the backlog here. So there are many things you can do. Very nice. And by the way, guys, if you stay to the end of this live, I will share the mind map with you, and then you can get to those tools if you want. Okay. So, and also I personally like the Pomodoro technique. Why? Because nowadays we have distractions all the time. So we receive notifications all the time in our phones, and sometimes we focus on one thing, and then we have so much content on the internet, right? If we go to the YouTube, we're going to have access to any video we can imagine in the world. And we can even have any Java course we imagine, right? So at the same time, it's very good that we have this abundance of content for us to use. It's very difficult to concentrate, right? So that's why I like Pomodoro technique. So basically, if you don't know the Pomodoro technique, it's basically a very simple tool, and you can use this website here, pomofocus.io, and you can start the timer and you can start working. And basically, you can write here that you can write your task. You can say, hey, I'm going to study Java, whatever. Study, okay, collections, passion. And then you can be more specific. You can start your task here, and you can even check the report after some time. So that's great, because when you study, it's great to see how many hours you've been dedicating to your career. Because sometimes we deceive ourselves, right? Sometimes we say, hey, I'm going to study Java. And then you start studying something randomly, and then you stop, and then you don't know how many hours you studied. And then your confidence goes down. Many things that really breaks our productivity. But by using Pomodoro, it's an exact way to see your progress, because you can see in the reports here how many hours you dedicated in your month or yearly. Like if you pay here, I think, yeah, it's very cheap. Lifetime is $54. And if you like this tool, it's a good one, but I actually use another one. It's the Focus to Do Pomodoro. So I personally like this one, but it really doesn't matter too much. As long as you use Pomodoro, it's going to be great for your productivity. Okay, so let me continue here. And it's important that you prioritize what is more important for your career. So you can use this Eisenhower matrix, and it's kind of huge, but I want to go so deep into it. So the first quadrant are the urgent and important things that you should do now. So what could be urgent and important? For example, if you're in a job that you can't take it anymore, that you're really annoyed with everything that's happening, if it's a toxic culture, your focus should be to study for interviews. Get ready for interviews to leave this job as soon as possible. Obviously, I always recommend you to face the situation, try to improve, do everything in your power. And if still you can't do anything to improve the situation and to improve the culture, then leave the job. But obviously, leave the job with something better. Don't leave the job just for the sake of it, unless your mental health is really being harmed. Then it's another situation, because really, if you're trading money for your health, that's a very bad deal, because your health is the most important thing you have, right? Without health, you can't even live in this world. So what's the point? So it's much better that you make an effort to get out of a job that you're losing your health as soon as possible. And it's also a very good technique to canalize the energy you have. So for example, if you're feeling angry or frustrated or any kind of bad feeling in your current company, use that in your favor and use that as a fuel for motivation. Because I know that there are many Java developers who are working in a toxic culture or with micromanaging boss, and they want to know every step, every detail you are doing in your job. And that really sucks, because you can't even do your job in peace. So define what are the most critical tasks for you. So for example, if you're fixing a production bug in your Spring Boot app, that's definitely a priority. Or for example, if you scheduled the Java certification and the Java certification is the next week, then your maximum priority is to study for this certification. And obviously, you have to finish those tasks first. The second quadrant is the not urgent, but important. So those ones you can schedule. So those are, for example, high value tasks that prevent future crises. So I would say that a high value task for most of Java developers nowadays is to practice algorithms. Why? Because it takes a long time to get good on them. And most companies, they are always doing the same. They are asking you to solve algorithms. They ask you to know about the structures. They ask you to explain your thought process, to talk about legal annotation. So this is an example, a good example of a high value task so that you are a developer in high demand for the market. Because if you don't study for interviews, you're going to be usually a hostage of your current company. And also, it makes it more difficult for you to negotiate a better salary with your manager. Because if your manager knows that you can't leave your job, then you're in a very weak position to negotiate. Because if they know you want to leave your job, like sometimes they will even say, okay, what's the point of promoting you? If I know that you can't leave your job, I don't care. So most managers in most companies, they will say that, right? So that's why we need to be always prepared for the market. Otherwise, like we are in a weak position in the negotiation and we don't want to be in this position, right? The best position to be in is a power position where you do interviews and you have options. And the company, to keep you there, they're going to have to value you. If they devalue you, if they don't care about your growth, you simply leave the company, right? Obviously, do your part. I'm not saying, oh, be an asshole, just leave the company. No, I'm saying, hey, try to negotiate something with your boss. Try doing something nice. But if that doesn't work, you have options. You can leave. That's why I'm telling you that algorithms is a good thing to invest your time now. Also, AI, obviously, but like we can't go crazy and try to do everything. Like be strategic on your learning. And also be aware that the fundamentals will be the things that will make you a great software engineer. Because nowadays, really, the companies, they don't care much if you know a programming language or not. So, for example, okay, great. So not urgent, but important. So like a good example are algorithms, right? And block your time in your calendar, like 2 hours daily, or I don't know, could be anything that works for you. I know that 2 hours daily is not realistic for many of you, but like it could be like 25 minutes of your day in the morning, or even during the lunch. So use one Pomodoro a day and do something that is valuable for your career. Because really consistency beats intensity. Remember that. Consistency beats intensity. It doesn't matter if you say, hey, today I'm going to save the world. I'm going to study everything about AWS. It won't happen because AWS is huge and you know that. So it's impossible to learn AWS or Java or any robust technology. Like it won't happen in one day. That's why I say that if you study 25 minutes from Monday to Friday, it's a lot more powerful than studying like the whole Saturday, like 12 hours. Why? Because when you do a little bit every day, you're also helping your brain to memorize, right? And after 12 hours of work, your energy is low and you're not learning as much as you wanted. So really, consistency will always beat intensity. Another example is when you go to the gym and do a very intense training for many hours. What will happen? You won't have any growth. But if you go to the gym and if you train for, I don't know, maybe 3 days a week, 1 hour each day, that will definitely make a difference for you. So it's the same concept. Consistency will beat intensity. And to be consistent, you need to know where you're going, right? You need to know what are your next career steps. If you don't know it, you don't know what you're going to do and you're going to procrastinate. So that's why it's important to do an exercise to write down what do you want. And you can be ambitious. You don't need to be afraid. Be very ambitious and say, hey, okay, I'm going to get there. And on the quadrant 3, urgent but not important. So what is the definition of that? Distractions that feel urgent but don't align with goals. So a possible distraction nowadays could be AI because, AI is very strong nowadays and everyone wants to create something with AI. Like it could be something that won't help you at all in interviews. It could be just a distraction, but it's kind of urgent as well, right? Because AI is eating the world alive, right? So it's taking the world by storm. So even though it's important to study AI and to be aware of what's going on with AI in the world, it's not something critical. It's not something that will impact you directly in your career. Obviously, using tools, I think anyone can use tools, and like we are software engineers, we can easily use those ChatGPT or Cloud or Llama tools. It's very easy, Copilot. So obviously using the tools is a good idea. But I'm saying here, for example, if you want to learn how to write an LLM, or if you want to learn more about the fundamentals of AI, that is important. It is for sure, but it's not urgent. It's not something that you can do it now. That will help you in your career, to be more exact. So another example here is to respond to non-critical Slack messages about Java frameworks, attending optional meetings. And so if you can delegate, you can, for example, set email checks twice a day. So urgent, but not important. Things that are good, but won't really impact you directly in your career. So what is the definition of the fourth quadrant? Not urgent and not important. So those are the time wasters with no real impact. Job examples could be going through the tutorial hell. This is a very common pain point for many developers because, like I said, nowadays you can find any course you can imagine on YouTube for free. So you can just go there and say, okay, today I'm going to learn AI with LLM. How can I create a simple LLM? And then you go through the tutorial hell and you start watching videos about AI and you don't stop. And then like you keep on doing that every day, you create the habit, but you're not really building any real skill. If you're only watching videos, you're not building a real skill. And most times it's not even helping in your career. So for example, rewriting perfect code for a non-priority personal project. So it's a nice to have. It is. It could be something nice, but it's not something that has a high impact in your career. So the action you can take is to delete or minimize these activities. So if you're going through the tutorial hell, if you're watching too many videos on YouTube, make sure you do that less, or you can even eliminate it if possible. And also you can block your calendar if that makes sense for you. Block your calendar, use Google Calendar. You can use also Microsoft Outlook. For example, if you want to work Hibernate or JPA, dedicate 2 hours a day to do that. Obviously, it doesn't need to be 2 hours, okay? If you have 25 minutes, it's fine. And also start easy, because if you start too hard, chances are that you're going to give up. Focus on productivity. So those websites are very interesting. Code Turkey. So basically, you can block. So with this app, you can block websites, you can block things that will make you procrastinate. And sometimes it's difficult to focus and not navigate on the internet. But if you use those tools, it's going to get easier because it's going to block all of the sites you want to access. So that's a good way to help you discipline yourself. Don't do the same thing. It will block some apps you don't want to have access while you're working. And there are some tools for time tracking like Toggle, Clockify, and Toggle. It's another tool that I don't use personally. So Toggle Track, but it's very interesting. I was exploring here this tool and it has lots of options, right? So you can plan your whole week and, you can basically measure how much time you are dedicating to your career. And you can even start a timer here. So it's a very robust tool. It works pretty well. So you can see reports if you want. And you can see how much time you've been dedicating in your project and your career. So I liked it. I'm not using it yet, but I'm considering using it. Clockify, I didn't have the time to explore it, but we don't need to see it now. And so this is an example. If you want to build real skills, it's important that you create something, right? So if you want to learn Docker or Kubernetes, create a simple app and deploy it using Docker or Kubernetes and see how it works if you deploy it in AWS or any other cloud vendor that makes sense for you. And resource organization. So this Notion tool is very interesting because you can organize all your notes. So let's see here, Notion. So I personally use notes from iOS, but on Notion, very likely you have a little bit more of a power. You can do more interesting things here to write down about your progress. You also have integrations with other apps. It looks very interesting. But since I have something very similar on my MacBook, like this tool wouldn't be very useful for me. But if you don't have a very powerful note app, Notion is excellent. And I actually think that pretty much sure it's more powerful than Notes. Has lots of features here. Seems very powerful. Anyway, so you can use this tool to take notes to also measure your progress, right? So, and tools for bookmarking. So if you want to save Java docs or blog, so there is this tool here, .io. And guys, I don't really like to use so many tools, but those are options. I'm just showing you the options so that you use what you feel it's useful for you. The most important thing here is that you take action. It doesn't matter the tool you're using. You can use like your notebook. You can, just write maybe 3 simple tasks a day and accomplish them. If you're doing that, I'm happy, right? It really doesn't matter. But if you see those tools and you see, okay, this tool, I like it, use it. Why not? It's all free. Some of them are paid, but they give you value back, right? If you're able to accomplish your tasks and be disciplined, that will be amazing. So you can add bookmarks here. I'm pretty much sure this tool is very powerful if you start using, but I don't use that. I just use bookmarks on my Google Chrome directly. But if you have many websites like that you want to keep it, maybe your browser is not enough. Maybe you need a tool like that, Raindrop or Pocket, then you can save all of the websites you think that is useful for you. Accountability and review. So sometimes it's difficult to keep up in our goals, right? That's why having a study group is useful. So you can create a Discord, meetup, join Java communities. You don't need to create your own Java community exactly, but you can go to a Discord community and you can ask people, hey, I want to create a study group. Would you like to join me? There are friends of mine who have a study group for Java certification. So that's a good idea to keep everyone accountable. It's also a great way to develop your communication skills, right? Because the better you get on your communication skills, the easier it is, for example, to pass in an interview, the easier it is to get a promotion, the easier it is to grow as developers, because the more we grow as Java developers, the more communication becomes important. And if you see no community with the technology you want to study created, you can create your own community and you can ask people around if they want to join your community. And then, you start small and you keep each other accountable to keep studying and to keep going. And also check it out, what worked and what didn't work, and adjust your goals if needed. So for example, if you want to leave your job, but now it's not important for you anymore to leave your job, then, try negotiating with your boss a better salary or a better position. So always review your goals to see if they make sense, because the more we progress in our career, it might be that our goals will change. So it's okay to change goals as well, because from time to time, your goals will change. And that's okay. That's natural, right? And, to learn new things with Java, like I said, you need to practice. So if you're learning how to create a microservice, if you're learning new queries on SQL, if you're learning like AWS services, if you're learning Docker, Kubernetes, if you're learning observability, create your own pet project, create something. You can even create something useful. So for example, if you have a specific problem and you don't see a software solving this problem, why not create your own software to practice? You don't even need to sell the software. If you want to sell it, for sure, go for it, because, it's a second income. It's a passive income. It's potentially a passive income you're going to create. But if you want to, only learn something, the best thing you can do is to create something useful, right? Create something that you're going to improve your skills. Because if you only watch courses or if you only read books, if you only learn something passively, chances are that you won't keep the knowledge. So like I said, you don't need to sell your product. You just need to practice. Obviously, it depends on your goals. If you say, hey, Rafael, I want to build a product, then you have to focus on selling this product. But if your focus is your career, which I'm assuming most of you here or every one of you are focusing on your career, then it's okay to create something useful, only to practice your skills. And if you really have no idea on what to build, have a chat with AI. Say, hey, I want to create a software in this area. Can you help me with some ideas? And then AI will help you. And you can create an app very quickly using AI nowadays, right? Because AI will give you a lot of code, will give you like many things that we would struggle a lot like a few years ago. Like nowadays with AI, we can really create an app very, very quickly. Like AI is extremely powerful nowadays. And obviously when I say to you to use AI, when you get some code, you have to make an effort to understand what's going on behind the scenes and to understand that code. Because if you just get code and don't know what's going on, then you're not improving your skills as a software engineer. So the thing that makes us become a lot better software engineers is, I know it might be a silly thing, but it is true. It's our ability to read code. This is one of the most important skills of a software engineer. So even if you are using AI and you're not typing, it's okay. As long as you put mental effort when you're reading the code to understand what's going on in the code. And lead code, like I said, it's important to do those algorithms because it helps us to have a sharper mind, right? To be a sharper learner, because like it's really a lot of mental effort to solve those algorithms. I know they seem silly, but the thing is that it makes us better software engineers. And more importantly, it helps us to pass in interviews. And that's what we want, right? Because that will help us to get new jobs or to negotiate better salaries, to get promotions. So there are a lot of things we can explore. And like I said, create a project to learn. Because if you only learn by watching passively something, like it's going to be very difficult. It's going to take a long time for you to acquire real skills. And it's going to be very likely that you're going to struggle a lot more in your job. Basically, when you train more, when you practice more, you bleed less in battle, right? This is a good quote as well. And it basically means that the more you practice outside of your job, the less you're going to struggle in your job as well, because you're going to be more skilled. Naturally, you're going to develop a skill. Key tips: balance theory and practice. So I would recommend you to allocate 60% coding and 40% theory, because only coding will help you to be a good problem solver, but you won't use the best solutions. You will use maybe the worst coding practice possible. So that's why it's important to balance both, to balance theory and practicing so that you can really acquire this skill. Adapt tools. You can use Toggle plus Pomodoro for intense sessions, and leverage communities. You can use like DevTO for motivation as well. You can write articles if you want to share your knowledge. And to avoid, like I said, avoid checking social media in the morning. Do this exercise at least in the first hour after you wake up. Avoid looking at your phone in the social media. Why? Because when we look on social media, we are basically training our brains to keep looking, right? Because every time we look at a notification, we are having a dopamine hit. And dopamine is the motivation neurotransmitter, right? And if you use your motivation, if you release dopamine right in the morning by checking notification, it will make you a lot more demotivated to work on your goals. So do this exercise. Avoid checking your phone in the first hour of your morning. And this will also make you less reactive. And if you are reactive, that's bad for you, because then it seems you're not in control of your life. If anything from the external will damage your confidence or your self-control, so you become someone who is firstly dependent to social media, and you also become someone who will react towards anything that happens to you, and you might react badly. And that's okay. From time to time, this will happen, but by doing this exercise of avoiding the first hour of your morning to check your phone, that will make you definitely more productive. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for showing up and being here, investing in your career. And I'm looking forward to see you again very soon. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Olai. Thanks, Cesar. Thanks, Scott, so much for being here. And nice to see you again.